You are listening to the first ever Baton Twirling podcast. This is the Baton Twirling Project. What group did you twirl with growing up?
So I've twirled with two groups. My first group I started out in was Riverside Young Californians. And that's because my first coach was established with them. And I twirled with them for most of the years, doing parade corps and then some dance twirls. And then I joined the Waves and I twirled with them for probably 5 or 6 years. We actually won our junior small team that I was on, won world nationals one year. It wasn't a world qualifying year, so we didn't get to go to Worlds, but we won, and it was a really exciting experience to have that happen.
How long have you been twirling?
I twirled competitively for 14 years, awesome. And so since my junior year of college, which was in 2008, I stopped competing, but I've been involved with the sport ever since then, granted limited while I was in graduate school, because that was really a difficult time of my life.
Really hard.
I would twirl for myself for stress relief, and that's about it.
What's your role right now in baton twirling?
So I feel like my role right now is more like an advocate. I'm working on trying to grow the understanding of like injury prevention and how injury prevention not only prevents injuries but also improves performance. And so it's really that dual aspect. With the stretching and proper strengthening comes better routines and better quality of movement. So I'm trying to figure out, one, how to make it fun and enjoyable to learn it, but two, like, just getting the knowledge out there and the information out there on a broader level. Yeah. So I feel like because of where I live and there's not a lot available to me as far as like large groups of people that I could teach classes to, I'm trying to be the advocate more virtually.
Yeah, no, that's definitely good.
And then there's like touching base with coaches that I've worked with in the past and teams that I've worked with to try to like build a foundation for people to be able to understand it better.
That's great. I just think that's such an interesting side of twirling. Like, I wouldn't go around pretending I know, like, okay, here's how you stretch. Everyone would be, like, suing me because they'd be like, I broke my hip because you said to do this. And we need that so badly because I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, we can do baton twirling without the ballet side or without the dance side. And I'm like, but you're going to hurt yourself.
I think there's just so much, like, even just the basics that are really simple to learn that if we could just even touch on the foundation of that, there'd be a lot more, like, progress forward and a lot less injury, and girls would be advancing quicker because they would have the foundation in order to get to the next level with tricks and movements. So I feel like it's an area that I never learned when I was a twirler. For me, to warm up for a routine, I would go practice my routine until I felt warm, and then I would do my routine, you know? I never learned, like, how to make my hips stronger, and I never learned how to make my core stronger, and so I had back injuries and hip injuries, and nobody ever taught me how to fix that. And there was areas in my routines where I was weak, but had I known how to make other parts of my body stronger, I would have been a better performer. So, and I feel like even in dance, like, there's a level of education that can be pushed, because I think even the beginner dance educators don't have that foundation of, like, quality of movement and technique and understanding, like, the alignment stuff that actually helps you activate the proper muscle in order to really strengthen versus move. I don't know. It's something I'm really passionate about, and I feel like I haven't seen it in the sport very well developed. I really want to call it like the foundation classes of stretching and strengthening for baton twirlers and make it really specific to them. It doesn't involve just even the core and the hips. I mean, shoulders get injured and wrists get injured and necks get injured, and I'm not necessarily wanting to work one-on-one with a person and teach them how to make a problem of theirs better, because I can't legally do that. But I can teach you how to avoid getting there in the first place. Yeah, exactly. So, I think that would be great. That's something the twirling world needs. So it's funny because the stretching, I think that is so interesting because it's literally fundamentals. And I keep trying to explain to
like my little girls, they're like, I want to learn how to toss it like you do. And I'm like, oh, you're not going to do that until you learn how to do a thumb flip, not just like throw your baton uncontrollably. And it's the same thing, like with your wrist. If you're tossing with your shoulder like this and using all your muscle to toss it like that, like I'm sure you're going to knock out your shoulder or do something terrible to your shoulder.
I mean, girls want to be, and guys, they want to be able to do the next trick.
Yeah.
And if their body's not ready to do it, they're at risk. Maybe they can force it to work, but it's not going to work out well for long. Mm-hmm. And I think that if we could just even teach, this is a proper kick, you know, in arabesque.
Yeah.
This is where your hip is supposed to turn. Mm-hmm. Or like on a fan kick, you need to keep your hip dropped on your right side. If you're kicking your right leg, you don't want it elevated up in the air because you're jamming parts of your body that aren't meant to be jammed.
Yeah.
You're not giving your body the best potential to have the best movement. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have the strength to do it and you don't have the proper control of your core, you're going to end up getting hurt. And then all of that doubles back as when you do have all of that, it's so much more fun to watch because you're not saying, whoa, I know they just did that kick, yeah, but it looked really weird. Yeah. Like, what was wrong with it? Or illusions. Illusions are like the number one thing that people get hurt on and end up having to have surgery for labral tears because they force them and they don't have the flexibility. They do it on surfaces that necessarily aren't safe, and they do it in too much repetition, so it results in an injury. And we have to help people understand the proper progression to doing illusion. If you're not able to do a proper controlled arabesque with your head even tipping down, you're probably not ready for that illusion quite yet.
Yeah.
You know? There's got to be this level of like, yeah, we want them to get there, but it's not as important to be there if it's not safe and proper than trying to find something else that you can do well.
Yeah. What motivated you to go on this path for baton twirling?
Or when I was in graduate school, we had to do a community project as part of our doctoral project. And baton twirling's always been my passion. So I went on a manhunt search to try to figure out what is the movements that cause injuries. Is it movement specific? Is it age specific? Is it organization specific? And I had a survey that I sent out, and I think I had almost 200 people that completed it. Through that survey, I compared the information from the survey. I interviewed Anne with the Wheaton majorettes via email. And then I also took a whole bunch of dance research and kind of combined it all together to be like, okay, the biggest areas based off my research came out to be that the first area people get hurt are their hips and then their back and their knees. Those are the three major areas. And it was organization not specific. Like it didn't matter. USTA, BTA, TU, like none of that mattered. Well, regardless of all things, those were the areas with the first and most common injuries. And obviously your risk goes up with the more years you twirl, but there's injuries even within the first year. That kind of sparked my interest. And then with all the information that I've learned from PT school and just seeing the deficit of there's no education in baton twirling, it kind of just became my like passion to find a way to teach this. I feel like if you're doing work you love, then it's not quite so painful of work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not making any money off of this right now. It's just something I'm trying to advocate for. Maybe eventually down the road there'll be the opportunity for a business to come out of it. But for now, I mean, I just want to spread the wealth of information and try to touch as many groups as I can. I mean, I would love to be able to get to like a summer camp and really get my hands on helping. But I think that's all going to take time, and dreams take time. And so I'm willing to be patient and kind of work through those steps to get there. I think just combining the information I learned from PT school and realizing what I didn't learn in baton and how I could have been a better twirler had I known the two, I was like, I've got to share this with people. And there's nobody else talking about it. And there's a bunch of baton twirling physical therapists.
Yeah.
So there's people that know this. We just need to find the best method to teach. And now with all of the social media and all these different venues to be able to talk virtually, I think there's a lot more opportunity to spread that information now, whereas before it was just kind of more restricted to your local area.
I've had a hip injury since I was 14, so that was the first thing that went. The guy was like, have you been in a major accident? And I was like, no, why? He was like, your hip is jacked. And I was like, great.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just not even just the stretching, it's also strengthening. I never once sat down and tried to strengthen my body in baton twirling. I did tricks to get stronger, but I never did, separate from baton twirling movements, I never learned how to actually strengthen my body.
Yeah.
And if you look at any other elite type of sport, like gymnastics and even dance and ice skating, they spend almost equal amount of time outside of the gym or outside of their arena stretching and strengthening and trying to improve their body control and improve their ability to be strong enough to complete the tricks that they want to do. I mean, I don't know anyone from my group that I had ever told me they did that.
I was always like, how do these girls get their leg in the air without holding it? And then as I got older, they're actually lifting weight, doing stuff in a gym, and I don't think I ever stepped inside of a gym when I was twirling.
Right, and I don't think we have to get extravagant with as you're building up in your skill set, but there's definitely some basics that can be, established young that aren't going to hurt anyone and that would help to be able to not only strengthen your body, but teach your brain to identify, oh, that's my hip muscle.
Yeah.
When he says raise my leg, I need to feel it there, not in my back.
Yeah.
So I think there's a part of this neuromuscular, like your brain talking to your muscles aspect that also works into it when you're trying to just strengthen a hip. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot more happening, and I think I get geeky about it with all the extra special words. And I'm trying to figure out how to like tame it down, but not so much that people aren't thinking, oh, I'm just doing this exercise to strengthen my hip. I want them to see that, yes, you're doing that, but you're also teaching your brain how to talk better to that muscle. And you're also teaching your body to be able to use that muscle properly when you do the next trick.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more happening than you're just raising your leg up to strengthen a muscle.
Totally understand that.
There's just a lot more to it. And I don't think everyone needs to know every part of it, but there's like an audience for each part that's important. There's just so much to it. And I love the sport of baton twirling and I want to get back.
Yeah.
So.
I think that would be awesome. Okay, I'll ask 2 more questions and then I'll let you go. Oh, you know what? This is a good one. Have you ever broken a bone twirling?
Well, yes and no.
Besides the fingers or the toes.
Well, no, actually, it was in my senior year of high school. I was at waves practice. And we were doing an across the floor movement. And then right before we started the movement, they told us to stop. They were like restarting us from a different point. And I had already like had my momentum going that direction. And the girl next to me, she had stopped. And it was a movement where you were stepping to the side, but also turning towards the back. And so my foot landed on her foot, but my momentum was going backwards. So I like twisted my ankle and then fell and landed with my hand underneath my body and actually broke my wrist. So, but it wasn't like a trick issue. I fell in team practice and broke my arm.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, like broken bone I've ever had. And it was just like a freak accident. It wasn't really anyone's fault. It just happened.
Yeah. What would be your advice to anyone who is 1, twirling, or 2, deciding to start their own group?
Well, for anyone who's twirling, I think to give it time. Don't give up on yourself. Sometimes, I know when I was transitioning from intermediate to advanced, I took a year off of competition and really focused on my routines, on developing my tricks, and just kind of relearning my body, because as you grow, your body changes, and sometimes you need time to adjust to that. For those who are starting a new group, to reach out to your friends, because they've been like my allies in trying to learn how to start it, because I was kind of blind and didn't really know what to do, and it does have a cost associated with it, so you have to have some spare money to be able to do it safely. I mean, yeah, you could have it without insurance, but it's just in our day and age, it's a little risky anymore. To just keep up, asking your friends for help, and don't be afraid to ask your parents for help, because one of my little girls, her mom has a Cricut machine, so there's only 2 girls, so she just cuts out the letters and puts it on the shirts for me, so I don't have to spend money on it, which is really nice because I don't have any need for group. And just keep trying. I mean, if it's your passion, it'll eventually get there, and I know that, and I'm just trying to be patient to see it grow.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, it's so good talking to you. It's like such great information, especially it's good to know the information is there and out there. And Twirling needs to get on the internet. Let's do this. Let's make this happen.
Yes, I definitely want to be part of that. So
Yeah.
anything else you need, let me know, because this was fun, and I know there's a lot more ways we can break it down.
Okay, cool. Well, I will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again for listening to the Baton Twirling Project podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to be the first notified of future episodes so you can stay up to date with Baton Twirling news. Make sure to leave us a positive review on iTunes to help us reach more and more people about baton twirling. If you'd like more information about baton twirling in your local area, email us at batontwirlingpodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you so much for listening and being here. It means so much to baton twirlers everywhere. We'll catch you next time.